Am I audible? So we will be starting the presentation within 5 minutes. We are waiting for some more participants to join.
Wait for a moment. Still 1998.
Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of DMEO Niti Aayog, I welcome you all to the pre-proposal conference of empanelment of monitoring and evaluation institutions, which is done with the objective to create a network of monitoring and evaluation institutions across the country for encouraging and undertaking activities pertaining to monitoring and evaluations. Next slide.
Can you see the slide?
There is a lag.
There's a lag.
Should I unshare and reshare again?
Before we proceed further, it is important to note that all information provided in this presentation does not and is not intended to constitute authoritative advice regarding the RFP and its core agenda, if any. Instead, all information, content, and materials are for general information purposes only and may not constitute the most up-to-the-date information. Next slide.
It's considerable lag. I think I should unshare and then reshare.
I can set the context. That setup once it is done.
So,
stop. Yeah.
okay. So the question and answer section will be taken after once the presentation is over. I would request the participants to post their queries in the chat box with their name, designation, along with the organization. Today, as a senior leadership, we have Shailendra Dwivedi sir with us. I would request sir to address the participants with his opening remarks.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone of us who have joined today for this pre-bid conference. Just to set the context to this exercise on behalf of DMEO Niti Aayog, wanted to share with you how critical and how important this exercise is for what is the core mission of Development Monitoring and Evaluation Office, which is to strengthen the monitoring and evaluation ecosystem in the country. Now, in that ecosystem, the role of M&E institutions cannot be overemphasized. It is but through the active participation of M&E institutions that we can get a strong monitoring and evaluation ecosystem in the country. And this process that DMEO has started is basically with that larger objective. We are really looking forward to a lot of interest in what we are looking for here, which is to empanel institutions which may not be designated as M&E institutions per se, but they have got monitoring and evaluation capacity, and they have got monitoring and evaluation wings within their larger structure, which have carried out projects in the areas that we are looking for and have been listed out in the RFP. So with this context, if we see a lot of institutions in the country may not be known by the name of monitoring and evaluation institutions, but they have this requisite capacity which we are looking for here. And taking that into account, we are looking forward to finding more and more partners in this mission of strengthening the M&E ecosystem in the country, which, as you would all agree, requires a lot of work, collaborative work from all the players that we can find as part of this process. So with that, maybe I'll just hand it over to our colleagues here to take you through the different important clauses of the RFP itself. We are looking forward to any queries that we might be able to answer here. But of course, whatever written queries we would receive, we have received some, but like whatever queries we will receive, we will be responding to those as well. We definitely want this exercise to succeed with all your support. So over to Bhavna here. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Next slide, please. So today's presentation is actually structured as follows, where we will be briefly talking about the DMEO, about its vision, about its activities, the terms of reference for the empanelment of the M&E institutions, eligibility criteria, the technical aspects, the key clauses of the RFPs, and the deliverables and timelines. Next slide, please. Talking about DMEO, Development Monitoring and Evaluation Office was established in September 2015 as an attached office of Niti Aayog by the Government of India by merging the erstwhile Program Evaluation Office and Independent Evaluation Office. DMEO's major objective and its long-term vision lies in strengthening the M&E ecosystem in the country, building robust data systems and data architectures, enabling evidence-based policy making, with the objective to actually enable effective monitoring and evaluations of the government programs to improve effectiveness, efficiency, and sustainability of the service delivery outcomes and impacts. Next slide, please. Currently at DMEO, there are different set of activities which are being undertaken. Under the monitoring, we are basically involved in developing the outcome and monitoring framework. There are there's actually monitoring reviews which is being undertaken for different sectors. There is a data governance quality index, which is basically used to assess the data preparedness levels and the use of the IT systems, global indices, the measurement and the monitoring of those aspects. Under the evaluation, the DMEO has successfully completed the evaluations of 125 centrally sponsored schemes. There is also evaluations which is being carried out for the flagship programs. Quick assessments are being undertaken, performance notes are being prepared, and the research and analytical activities. Along with this, DMEO is actively engaged in building capacities at ministry level, state level, and basically involved in developing partnerships and external collaborations. Next slide, please. Coming to the terms of reference for this particular RFP, the major objective of this particular empanelment is that through this, the DMEO is actually seeking to empanel the country's reputed research organizations, universities, academic institutions, think tanks, and established non-government organizations which have experience in development, monitoring, and evaluations, and in conducting the socio-economic researches on outsourcing basis. The institutions should have multidisciplinary research and analytical capabilities to support the monitoring and evaluation of the government programs, policies, and institutions. Upon empanelment and subsequent award of contract, the selected institution shall provide consultancy services to the authority as per the terms of reference of the project RFP. Next slide, please. So the terms of reference for the empanelment is structured as follows. The detailed information under these categories is given in the RFP. Uh, uh, Under the terms of reference, the DMEO's vision, missions, and strategies are defined. There is indicative projects which the DMEO envisage to undertake. There is scope of services defined, deliverable timelines, and payment structures. However, it is to be noted that these are only indicative details. The actual requirements shall be provided in the project RFPs. Next slide, please. Now, the monitoring and evaluation studies or the other knowledge-based consulting assignments to be commissioned by DMEO may actually involve one or more of the below listed objectives. So these include the monitoring studies, which involves institutionalization of the outcome-based monitoring within the government setup, facilitation of the global indices, the sectoral reviews. Under evaluation, it involves theme-based scheme analysis, cross-sectional analysis, evaluability assessments, etc. Besides, it might also involve capacity building, leveraging technology and innovation for the monitoring and evaluation, project management support for large-scale study and monitoring and evaluation projects. Next slide. Scope of services. This slide actually provides a broad catalog of services that may be requested from the monitoring and evaluation institution as a part of the project study. So this involves baseline assessments, systematic reviews, capacity building, data analysis, and all. So this is subject to the project RFP. Next slide. This This is actually the list of sectors under which the DMEO intends to empanel the monitoring and evaluation institution for carrying out the monitoring and evaluation studies of the government programs, initiatives, and schemes. So there are 21 sectors which are there. We have agriculture, environment, and all these sectors under which the institutions will be empaneled and will be carrying out the activities. Next slide, please. Now, this is an indicative breakup of the payment schedule. The payment schedule, however, will be linked to the deliverables of the project, which will depend upon the nature and the magnitude of the project study. So, next slide. Coming to the key features of the RFP. Now, the authority has actually adopted single stage selection process for evaluating the proposal of empanelment, comprising only technical bid evaluation, and there will be no financial information stored at this stage. The institutions will be evaluated on the basis of the technical bid responsiveness, the eligibility criteria, and only those applicants whose technical proposals get a sum of 60 or more shall qualify for the empanelment. Next slide. The technically qualified applicants shall be empaneled under DMEO under the three categories. This actually involves capabilities, so which will be monitoring, evaluation, or capacity building, sector, states. The details of the criteria which will be used for classification under the three categories is actually provided in the RFP. Next slide, please. Now, award of contract post empanelment. Now, post empanelment, for the award of contract, the authority may actually choose either the single envelope financial evaluation or two envelope techno financial evaluation amongst the empanel institution based on the requirement of the project. So it is basically detailed as follows. However, it is important to note that under the Rule 6 of the GFR 2017, the Department of Expenditure has recently relaxed the threshold of procurement under limited tender inquiry for NITI Aayog and its subordinate attached offices to 50 lakh, taking into consideration its special nature of professional requirements. Next slide, please. Talking about the tenure of empanelment, the period of validity of empanelment shall be 3 years from the effective date of empanelment. After the expiry of 3-year period, the authority may choose to renew the empanelment for additional 2 years on the request of the empanel M&E institutions, and furnishing of requisite documents is decided by the authority. Next slide. Withdrawing from empanelment. Now, any empaneled M&E institution may withdraw from the panel at any time by giving 1 month's advance notice in writing to the DMEO. However, any ongoing assignment must either be completed to the satisfaction of the sponsoring agency or the full project cost should be refunded before such approval. Further, DMEO reserves the right to de-empanel any institutions as detailed in the RFP. Next slide, please. Now, this is actually an indicative list of key persons who shall discharge their responsibilities subject and is actually subject to the modification as per the project specific requirements. So we will be having team leader, deputy team leader, M&E expert will be there, sectoral expert will be there to actually provide their services for the project. Next slide, please. I may now request my colleague Himanshu to take us through the eligibility criteria and other key clauses of the RFP. Over to you, Himanshu.
Thanks. Thanks, Bhavna. I will once again ask all the participants to kindly post their question along with their name and organization name in the chat box. Next slide, please. So who is eligible for this particular empanelment? Any applicant who is a non-profit organization under the respective acts as mentioned in the RFP, or it's a government-owned, quasi-governmental or autonomous academic and research institution which is recognized by University Grants Commission or any other state or central government. In case of an academic institution including university, specific department and unit or division or a center of excellence should apply independently for this empanelment and not in the name of the university or institution. Any applicant should have undertaken at least 5 eligible assignments within past 6 years preceding the proposal due date in the monitoring and evaluation domain as per the clause 3.1.4. The applicant should have a minimum income of 1 crore per annum in the respective 3 years from 2017-18 to 2019-20. The applicant must have a minimum of 10 qualified key personnel engaged on full-time basis in the organization. The applicant should also not have been barred or blacklisted by any of the central government or state government and their respective departments and public sector undertakings. Next slide, please. Coming to the definition of eligible assignments. So any advisory consultancy assignment undertaken in the Indian subcontinent which has been granted to the applicant by central or state or UT government and their departments and undertakings, UN organization, bilateral, multilateral agencies, and other organizations such as regulatory commission, tribunals, statutory authorities as mentioned in the RFP, in respect of monitoring and evaluation of the government programs and schemes. For any eligible assignment which the applicant wants to claim credit for, the applicant should have received at least 15 lakhs till prior to the proposal due date for such assignment. The applicant should have taken at least in the past, so the eligible assignment should have been started or completed within the 6 financial years preceding the proposal due date. Next slide, please. So the technically qualified applicants will be empaneled under DMEO under the 3 different categories. One is capabilities, states, UTs, and sectors. For each of the categories, there is a requirement of minimum eligible assignment that an applicant has to meet. For example, in case of capabilities, it is 3 eligible assignment. For state and UTs, it is at least 1 eligible assignment. And for sector, it's at least 2 eligible assignments. Next slide, please. Now coming to the technical proposal. For the technical evaluation, this is the criteria. Any organization will be scoring against a total of 100 marks, which have been further divided into different parameters. For example, organizational appraisal, which has been given 25%, institutions monitoring and evaluation capacity 15%, institutions research and publication in the monitoring and evaluation space, which is 10%, and then based on the relevant experience of the applicant, quantum of the eligible project has been given 20%, and the quality of the eligible assignments has been given 30%. Next slide, please. Now these parameters have been further divided into different sub-parameters which have been clearly mentioned in the RFP. For example, the organizational appraisal have been given 25% of the weightage, and there is subsequent maximum points against each of the question that applicant can score. Next slide, please. For institutions monitoring and evaluation capabilities, which is the weightage has been given 15%, and the applicant will be evaluated based on the responses uh, it is providing against the Appendix 1 Form 7A, and the maximum that he can score is 100 points for this particular parameter. Next slide, please. Institutions research and publication in M&E, monitoring and evaluation space. So here 10% weightage has been given, and the details will be collected from the applicant as per Appendix 1 Form 7B. Next slide, please. Then the relevant experience of the applicant. So details will be provided by the applicant as per Form 8 of the RFP. Next slide, please. Coming to the key clauses and the other things that the applicant should make note of. So the proposal will be accepted only through the central public procurement portal. The applicant need not send the hard copy of the proposal. The power of attorney and the bid security will be collected at the time of signing of the agreement. Next slide, please. So there will be a due responsiveness check after the proposals have been submitted, and the applicant should submit clear scanned copies of the PDFs, as well as for form number 256, 7A, 7B, 8 and 9. The applicant has to submit those forms in Excel format as well. And similarly, all other forms as mentioned in the RFP should be submitted as per the given format. Next slide, please. So this is just a screenshot of the Excel format in which the applicant has to submit the form number 2, 5, 6, 7A, 7B, 8 and 9. The applicant need not change the format of the Excel forms. Next slide, please. So coming to the timelines. So the RFP was published on 25th of March 2022. The proposal due date is 5th May 2022, and the opening of the proposal will be done on 6th May 2022. The applicants kindly make note of the proposal due date, which is 5th May. Next slide, please. Now, coming to the question and answer, I would request all the applicants once again to kindly post their question in the chat box, and we will now take all the questions. We have received some of the questions during from the registration form and also through mail. We will take them one by one.
Chat box now or the ones you received?
So we have also been joined by Paresh Dhokad. I would request Paresh also if he has a brief message to all the applicants, potential applicants. Paresh.
Thank you so much, Himanshu, and thanks to all 120 plus participants who have joined today's conference. It's very heartening to see so much interest in empanelment initiative that has been initiated by DMEO Niti Aayog. Let me also take this opportunity to thank all the institutions who had applied for empanelment as survey institutions floated last year. We got enough interest, and at the end we were able to shortlist 28 institutions, and thereafter a lot of ministries departments have already started using the same list for conducting surveys. How is this particular empanelment different from the previous one? I just wanted to clarify, just to ensure that there is no confusion between the two initiatives. The earlier one was empanelment as survey institutions. The task there was very clear, that it would be more related to conducting of qualitative and quantitative surveys. What we are doing as part of current initiative that we have walked you through over the last half an hour is about empanelment as monitoring and evaluation institution. This is more a knowledge consultancy empanelment for monitoring and evaluation of government schemes and programs. So both empanelment are quite different. One is for conducting of surveys. This one is for conducting knowledge assignments for DMEO Niti Aayog. So just wanted to ensure that there is no confusion here. With that, I wish all the very best to all the applicants to submit their proposals. Just be sure about the bid responsiveness criteria as outlined by Himanshu on his slide. All the forms have to be submitted in scanned PDF form. Also, there are few forms which have to be submitted as Excel. The reason we are asking for submission of few forms as Excel is to ensure that there's standardization, and at our end, because we are envisaging a huge plethora of applications, it will also help us automate few things, and we can avoid certain errors which human calculations might go through. So that's the reason we are asking you to submit forms as Excel. You can save the same Excel forms as PDF and send us a signed copy. So with that, probably that's the brief remarks, and probably I'll come in when we reach the question and answers round. So back to you, Himanshu.
Thanks, Paresh. So starting with the question and answer session. So one of the questions that we have received through mail and the registration from one of the prominent ones are the for-profit organization eligible for this empanelment? This is one of the questions that we have got repeatedly. Paresh, if you could answer this.
Thanks, Himanshu. Yes, we have received a host of queries to allow public-private limited companies to also participate. At this point in time, during the pre-proposal conference, the decision from the authority is to limit this to only not-for-profit institutions and academic research organizations as recognized by University Grants Commission of India or any central or state government. So that's the decision taken by authority at this point in time. If at all this changes, you will know it through corrigendum, but no changes contemplated at this point in time.
Yes, thanks, Paresh. So there is one more question from Brief. We have received this question. So they are saying that their organization is registered under the Indian Companies Act. However, it does not fall under the non-profit organization category. In such case, are they eligible for this empanelment?
I think, Himanshu, the answer is very similar to what I responded to the previous one. The RFP is very clear in this matter. It says it has to be a not-for-profit institution registered under any of the act provided, Societies Act, Trust Act, or Companies Act, but it has to be registered as a not-for-profit institution. Yeah, and if at all this changes, they will know it through corrigendum.
Thanks, Paresh. So one more question that we have received is that we have received this question particularly from Indian Institute of Development Management, that they are actually empaneled earlier with the Planning Commission of India as a research and evaluation agency. So do they have to again get themselves empaneled with DMU under this particular RFP?
Sure, Himanshu. So every empanelment has a different objective in mind. In the past, Niti Aayog and also DMEO, which is attached office of Niti Aayog, has undertaken empanelment. I also spoke about empanelment as survey institutions. What we are talking about today is empanelment as M&E institutions, empanelment as monitoring and evaluation institutions. This exercise has not been done in the past. So if this will be counted as a fresh application, I would request that any agency empaneled with us in the past, either with Niti Aayog, either with Planning Commission, or either with even DMEO as survey institutions, I would request them to reapply to empanel as monitoring and evaluation institution. This will have two advantages. One, obviously, whenever DMU floats any monitoring and evaluation study, you will get a preference. If it is less than 50 lakh study, then it goes through a limited tender inquiry where you will again be counted amongst the preferred bidders. Second, the central ministries departments, and we are talking about close to 14 lakh crores of schemes across all central ministries and departments, and all of them have to go through evaluation in at least one evaluation per finance commission cycle. So with this list, we are expecting other central ministries departments to also use this list for their monitoring and evaluation purposes. If you have submitted your application and you get shortlisted at monitoring and evaluation institution, then this makes you eligible for other ministries and departments also to use the same list. And this is permitted under General Financial Rules 2017 as well. So this will have two advantages. That's hence I'm requesting you that no matter whether you're empaneled with us or any other central ministry or department in the past, consider this as a fresh application and please submit your proposal. I hope that answers your query. But if there is any subsequent clarifications needed, feel free to post it in the chat. Back to you, Himanshu.
Yes. Thanks, Paresh. So we have a question from Genesis, Dr. Anil Dhaneshwar. He wants to know whether the MSME's exemption is applicable in this particular empanelment. Paresh?
Sorry, I was speaking on mute. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Paresh, you are audible.
Yeah. So as far as any kind of exemptions under eligibility criteria is concerned, clause 2.2.1 of the RFP is clear and self-explanatory. Let me read it out for the advantage of all the applicants. The conditions of eligibility as specified in the RFP may be relaxed for a particular applicant if applicable, subject to furnishing of relevant and valid documents or certificates supporting such relaxations or exemptions under applicable laws. So not just for MSME exemption, any other exemption. At this point in time, we will not be in a position to comment. If you feel you are eligible for any exemptions of any eligibility criteria, please submit your application, providing all the supporting certificates and documents, and the authority will take them into consideration before they arrive at a decision. So yeah, we will not be in a position to comment on any exemptions at this stage. The decision will be taken after reviewing the furnished documents.
Thanks, Paresh. So we have a question from Raji Sharma ji. He wants to know whether CVs of how many sectoral experts are to be submitted, and is it linked to the number of the years of sectoral experience that the agency has?
I'll answer the first part of the question, and then probably Mansh, I'll have to ask you to repeat the second part. But let me start with the first one. CVs of the key personnel. At this point in time, we are not seeking any names or CVs of the key personnel because we know that these are bound to change. We are talking about empanelment over a duration of 3 years. So in that case, we know the key personnel might keep changing. So at this point in time, we are just asking for aggregate information. We are seeking information on their educational qualifications, on their years of experience, and their count. So reiterating, no CVs are sought at this stage at this point in time. We will go by the undertaking that you have given, that so many key personnel are on the payrolls or are in-house registered with the respective institution. Himanshu, can you repeat the second part of the question, please?
So the second part was is it linked to the number of years of the sectoral experience of the agency? I think he wants to know whether the experience of the sectoral expert is applicable to the agency also for that particular sector.
Okay, when we do evaluation, it's going to be a sector agnostic evaluation. So the score that we're talking about, that you have to clear minimum 60 marks, is sector agnostic. But when it comes to preparing the list of institutions by sectors, because the evaluation studies often are sector specific, so we want to give preference to certain institutions who have worked in those sectors in the past. So the criteria to get empaneled under a particular sector, as Himanshu pointed out, if you have done 2 eligible assignments in a particular sector, you get empaneled under that particular sector. So let me reiterate. The minimum qualification for eligible assignments, if I'm not mistaken, is 5 eligible assignments over the past 6 years. So out of those 5, let's say if you have done 2 eligible assignments in health sector. So if you clear the minimum 60 marks, you get empaneled. And because you have done 2 eligible assignments under health sector, you get empaneled with DMEO under health sector as well. So that's the sectoral angle that we want to bring in our empanelment. But yes, this is not the eligibility criteria. Eligibility criteria is, sector agnostic, 5 assignments in monitoring and evaluation domain.
Yes.
Himanshu, I hope that clarifies the question. But if there are any follow-ups, please feel free to put it into the chat.
Yes, thanks, Parish. So we have a question from Jignesh Thakkarji. He wants to know, can an academic institution build a consortium with for-profit or consulting agency for this empanelment?
Sure, Himanshu, that's a good question. As per the features or the clauses in the RFP, the academic institution is open to building consortium with any institution. There's no criteria as such for the other consortium members. But one thing to keep in mind is all the eligibility criteria that we are going to evaluate is going to be for the applicant, and the way applicant is defined in case of a consortium, it will be the lead member. So let's say if an academic institution ABC is building a consortium with multiple other survey agencies to leverage their survey capacity, but when it comes to eligibility criteria that Himanshu outlined in terms of turnover or income, in terms of eligible assignments, in terms of minimum key personnel, those all will be considered only for the academic institution ABC in this case. The survey institution's experience or survey institution's key personnel will not be counted or evaluated as part of the eligibility criteria. So yeah, you're free to build consortium, but when it comes to eligibility criteria and evaluation, only the credentials of the lead member will be considered and evaluated. I hope that answers the query. Himanshu, before we proceed ahead, I just want to acknowledge we have Dr. Shekhar Bonu also on call now. While we can continue the question and answers now, and probably towards the end, we can ask him for his brief remarks. Yeah, back to Himanshu.
Yes, Parish. So there is one question from Microsave Consulting. Ritesh Rautela is asking, is this empanelment open for consultancy organization that undertake monitoring and evaluation work but outsource the data collection activity to survey agency? Or in another way, if I ask you this question, then is the applicant eligible to undertake the outsource the data collection part through another survey agency?
Sure, Himanshu. That's why the idea of consortium and sub-consultants has been part of the model RFP, which we have been following for our empanelment RFP as well. So the academic institution, research institution, or the other eligible institutions are open to build consortiums or hire sub-consultants to outsource a specific part of their activity. So that can be done at the time of project, but reiterating at this point in time, we are going to only evaluate the credentials of the lead applicant.
Yes, thanks, Parish. So there is one question from Piyush Pandeji. He wants to know, while considering for the eligibility for a university, so does the relevant publication of a particular department will be evaluated, or all the documents related to the proposal related to the university will can be added to the proposal, can be mentioned in the proposal?
I think the answer here.
Yes, I think the question is when a department wants to apply, can they also mention the relevant publications in M&E domain of all other departments present in the university?
Yeah, I think the answer here lies in the term applicant. If the applicant is a specific department, then all the experience has to be related to that particular department. If the university is applying, as an applicant, then the experience of the university will get taken into consideration. So it all depends on who the applicant is, and all the experience of that applicant will be taken into consideration.
Yes, thanks, Paresh. So we have a question from NCER. So they want to know whether they are already empaneled for Darpan Niti Aayog. So they want to know whether they have to again apply for this RFP, or are they deemed empaneled. So actually this has been answered by you in the earlier questions.
Let me reiterate, Himanshu, just for the benefit of all the organization institutions. Yes, as I said, we have undertaken empanelment in the past for various specific objectives. Monitoring and evaluation institutions empanelment is happening for the first time in the history of Government of India. So empaneling as M&E institution is happening for the first time. So I would request all the applicants to submit a fresh application, and reiterating again, it will have two benefits. One is you will get preference when we do limited tenders for monitoring evaluation studies. Second, other central ministries departments, whenever they conduct monitoring evaluation studies, you will also get a auto preference. So that's the idea as permitted by GFR as well. Yeah, back to you, Himanshu.
Yes, thanks, Paresh. So we have a question from Sambodhi. So they want to know, as per the clause 2.25.1, so it mentions that the authority shall shortlist organization that meet the eligibility criteria of the project, and then the RFP will be sent to those particular empaneled agency only, just few of them. So they want to know, like, understand it more.
Sure for that query from Sambodhi. Uh, as per General Financial Rules 2017 of Government of India, we follow different procurement methods. One of them definitely is the open tender process, which is open to anyone and everyone to apply as far as they meet the eligibility condition of the RFP. The second option provided by GFR 2017 is a limited tender inquiry process. The advantage of a limited tender inquiry process is we can save some time which goes into organizational appraisal. That's the reason we have an empanelment, which means one part of the evaluation, which is the organizational capacity evaluation, is conducted at the empanelment stage itself. So which is giving a fair chance to everyone and anyone to participate. And thereafter, we will do a limited tender only with those empaneled institutions, as far as GFR allows us to do that. So GFR has a limit on limited tender inquiry. As Bhavna pointed out, this limit for other central ministers departments is 25 lakh rupees. We have an exemption for Niti Aayog and its attached and subordinate offices, where the limited tender inquiry is up to 50 lakh rupees. So if a study is if it's a study related to monitoring and evaluation, and if the proposed budget of that study is up to 50 lakh rupees, then we might choose to go through a limited tender inquiry process. But then there's nothing stopping us from doing an open tender inquiry as well. So it will depend. The authority will take a decision. But yeah, the cap on any limited tender inquiry is 50 lakh rupees. I hope that answers the query. But if there is any follow-up, please feel free to post it in the chat.
Yes, thanks, Paresh. So I would also request other participants to kindly raise their hand, and subsequently we can unmute one by one each one of them to have their questions directly. So I would request them to kindly raise their hand. So meanwhile, we have a question from Professor Niranjan Kumar. He wants to know, suppose instead of the institution an employee has completed a evaluation assignment, then can the institute become eligible on the basis of that particular assignment?
Okay, again, I think the answer lies in the definition of applicant. So if we have asked for eligible assignments of the applicant, which means the project has to be undertaken in the name of applicant. If a key personnel has been part of a monitoring and evaluation study, but it was done by some other company, then that particular assignment does not qualify as an eligible assignment. So the eligible assignment has to be undertaken in the name of applicant. I hope I have understood your question correctly, but if not, please feel free to post any queries in the chat. Himanshu, I see 3 raised hands. If we can arrange to unmute them and ask them to raise a query.
Yes, we can start with Ashutosh ji. Kindly unmute him. Yes, sir. You may ask your question, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Ashutosh. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Yeah, I'm Ashutosh from National Productivity Council, Deputy Director. So there are 2 questions I had in my mind. One thing is, you have a specific criteria of 10 marks or 10% for research publications. But what happens when we are professional consulting organizations? So when you do a lot of monitoring and evaluation studies, as part of non-disclosure agreement, we are not supposed to publish the. We are not to publish the secondary data and the primary data collected from various sources as part of any publications. So which refrains us in making publications, although we are publishing a lot of reports, which is required by the client. So in that capacity, that research publications are quite limited for maybe some professional organizations, except the academic institution research organizations, they do have this particular. Otherwise, the professional consulting organizations, we are not part of much research publications because that agreement itself refrains us in doing so. That may be considered. And the second concern is, sir, I think it was quite clear that the earlier empanelment was for survey, and this particular empanelment is for monitoring and evaluation, which is kind of a value addition services, which is better knowledge. So if we are empaneled under this monitoring and evaluations, why can't by default we should be part of the survey? When we are part of a bigger role, we are adding value of it. So rather having two difference, so survey agencies should not be part of the monitoring and evaluation kit. Rather, the agencies who are part of this monitoring evaluation kit, having been going through all these checkpoints and all, they should also be allowed to empanel directly under the survey agency, because it is a more stringent exercise than the survey part, which was less value addition. As you said, that it's merely collection of survey data, primary and secondary data. So it's a suggestion that the monitoring and evaluation agencies, once they get through this particular rigorous exercise, they should be part of this survey part also. And the second is the publication part. So these two concerns should be addressed.
Himanshu, can I take up that query?
Yes, yes, Paresh, please.
Okay, thanks, Himanshu. Thanks, Ashutosh ji, for raising your query, and thanks for your interest in the pre-proposal conference. Let me answer both the queries. First, starting with the publications part, we will relook at the suggestion provided by you, but at this stage, at this point, the RFP is probably clear. It is looking at publications either in national or international journals. So just to remove ambiguity, we will not be able to consider any unpublished articles, no matter how rich in knowledge they might be. But it will be difficult for us to gauge the veracity of such articles or publications. That's the reason we are going ahead with publications only in national, international journals. But your suggestion is taken. We'll internally decide and see if we can make any amendments to that, and if at all, you will see that in the corrigendum. I also wanted to let you know that while the publications carry 10 marks, but that's not the eligibility criteria. It's an evaluation criteria. So just a hypothetical scenario, worst case scenario, even if an institution scores 0 on 10 in research and publications, there's still 90 marks allotted where they can still go ahead, score 60 marks, and if they can provide their expertise in monitoring evaluation, I don't see any reason for they not being able to clear the minimum threshold criteria. So yes, as we said, minimum 60 marks, yeah, and as far as if you have monitoring evaluation capacity, that should be doable. The second part of your question is about considering merging of survey institutions and monitoring and evaluation organizations and empanelment. Again, we will internally deliberate on that suggestion and get back to you. But at this point in time, we are looking at surveys as more a commoditized product, where we can also leverage expertise from across the industry, from across the various institutions. But when it comes to monitoring and evaluation, we are looking at more knowledge consultants. We are not, while survey might be part of the assignments, for that matter, that could be a possibility where we might, let's say if we were doing an evaluation of LPG subsidy, we might get the survey part of it done by our empanel survey institutions, but then drafting of report, analysis, triangulations, report writing part of that can be outsourced to a knowledge or what we are calling as monitoring and evaluation institution. So the both institutions can actually work hand in hand when it comes to few RFPs. So that's the thought process today. Survey institutions will be meant for more data collection, quantitative, qualitative surveys on a commoditized basis. And knowledge institutions, monitoring and evaluations will be doing more consulting work for us on top of those surveys. But yes, your suggestion is well taken. We will take that into consideration within DMEO. I hope I've answered your query, Ashutosh ji. If any follow-up queries, please feel free to post it in the chat. Himanshu, can we go to the next person, please?
Yes, we can take question from Professor Niranjan ji.
Yeah,
Kindly unmute.
thank you.
Open.
I have already unmuted myself. My question is simply, which already I posted in my chat box. I am just repeating the question because the answer, I think I couldn't get the clarification in totality. Suppose in academic institutions like my university, rather than a department or some university as such is doing some project, and they have completed the evaluation assignment on individual basis, the faculty member as such. So still the university can apply taking into account the credential of the particular individual or the faculty members who have completed the evaluation assignments. So can the university will be eligible or not? Or will the university will be eligible or not for that?
Sure, Professor Niranjanji. Again, clarifying again. So let's say an individual faculty member did undertake some consulting assignment, but at the time of conducting that assignment, if the assignment was conducted in the name of that university, then we will take that into consideration. But any assignment undertaken being part of some other universities, some other organizations, probably it will be difficult for us to consider that as an eligible assignment. So
I think I'll make my sorry to interfere you. I will
Yeah.
repeat my question, intervening here, making clarification here. Suppose I'm a professor and I have done currently I have done some evaluation work as a professor of Delhi University rather than Delhi University has taken that assignment. So university will be getting the benefit of me as a professor, part of the university who has done this assignment. So this was my question.
Okay, so the simple answer to that query, and I will ask Shailendra sir to respond. But a simple answer to that query is that assignment done in the name of key personnel will be considered when we are talking about the qualifications of a key personnel. When it comes to application of a particular as an eligible eligible institution, we will be considering only those conducted in the name of Delhi University. So we will probably not go into individual project experience. Shailendra sir, back to you.
Yeah, in fact, Paresh, I was just about to say the same thing, which you very clearly mentioned. I think Professor Niranjan, what Paresh is sharing makes logical sense, and we will be going by that criteria. Right now, we are talking of institutional empanelment, so anything done in the name of the institution becomes the relevant point. When you are actually after empanelment proposing your team for a particular project, and there you have this professor who has done projects either as part of DU assigned projects or individual capacity. It comes in as his personal experience, and there he would get due credit for the work as part of the team. So that's how it would work for all of us.
So it means university will not be getting the benefit that many of their faculty members on their individual capacity, though as a part of the university, as being a professor of the university, has completed.
So anything done in the name of the university by the professors, the university can get credit for that.
But the professor has done the project in the with the consent of the university, but not in the capacity of as a university project. Rather, it was his individual effort which he was giving consultancy or evaluation. But as a professor of the university, of course, he is there as a professor, but not it was a university assignment. So
the
this
point
was the
again,
question.
Professor Niranjan, is that we are looking to empanel institutions. Therefore, the institutional capacity is the key factor here. Well, if as an individual a professor has done something well with the consent of the university, those are other kind of engagements. So here we are looking at institutional capacity. We are looking at M&E institutions as partners, so that once the institutions are there, we know that there will be enough strength in the institutions to get the right talent to carry out any project which we are empaneling them for. So that's the idea here. So the two things are related, but just have to understand the slight difference.
Yes. Yes,
Thank you.
Parish, here I would also like to add, please correct me if I'm wrong. So if the professor of such university, he has taken some project and he has also, this has also resulted into some kind of publication, while the professor is on the post of, as a professor in that particular university, then uh, that particular publication can be counted as a publication of the institute if he is on that particular post.
Uh, Yes, Himanshu. Again, so you're right. If a university has undertaken a project, and so the same assignment can be given us to us as eligible assignment, and if a publication has come out of that assignment, that can also be listed under the respective form of research and publication. So it can be considered at both stages. But as mentioned, the publication has to be made in a national or an international journal to be eligible for getting marks.
Yes. Thanks, Paresh. Now we will be taking question from AFC India Limited. Miss Anjali, you may unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello.
Yeah, ma'am, we can hear you. Please go ahead with your query.
Okay, good afternoon, sir. Sir, I just need a small clarification. Like, our organization is a deemed government organization and we are registered under the Companies Act. So, being a consultancy organization, shall we are eligible for this empanelment?
So, ma'am, at this point in time, probably I will not be able to comment on the specific candidature of a particular institution, but I can reiterate what we are looking for. So, if you meet any of those criteria, we should be considering your candidature. So, one of the criteria is if you are a non-profit organization registered under due process of law based on Societies Act, Trust Act, Indian Companies Act, or Universities Act, etc. So, it has to be a non-profit organization, or you have to be a government-owned, quasi-governmental or autonomous academic and research institution. So the word here key again is autonomous research academic institution is also eligible as far as they are recognized by University Grants Commission or any state or central government. So that's the criteria, but specific candidature of your particular institution will not be able to comment at this point in time. We'll have to go through your specifications, your details, your forms, and then accordingly take a informed decision.
Sir, as we are a profit-making organization and registered under the Companies Act, so and you have mentioned that government, quasi-government, and autonomous are these creatures for the organizations or for the research or academic institutions?
Okay, so the both criteria, basically it's an or, not and. So either you are a not-for-profit institution or you could be a for-profit, but a government or a quasi-government or an autonomous academic research institution. So those are two different criteria points. So to answer your question, if it's a autonomous body, registered, recognized by University Grants Commission, but still making profit, we will be considering that. I hope that answers your query.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paresh. So we are running short of time. We will take couple of more queries and then we will wind up with the session. So we have received some more questions on the chat. So just taking questions from there. So so one of the question is, as there are 21 themes and sectors as categories for empanelment, can more than one sector or theme related to a empanelment application be submitted by an organization? If so, does the organization have to submit separate applications for different sector themes, or one application could be accepted for a set of sectors?
Sure, Himanshu. I can answer that query. So there is no need for separate applications. We have tried to minimize the effort going by the ease principle. So you have to submit only one application. As far as you have given us 2 assignments per sector, you become eligible for that sector. So theoretically, you could give us 42 eligible assignments, 2 under each sector, and get empaneled under each of those sectors. So yeah, there is no limit on how many sectors you can get empaneled under. As far as you have given us 2 eligible assignments, you have proven your monitoring and evaluation expertise in that particular sector, you get empaneled with us.
Yes, Parish. There is one question from Divya Dua. She wants to know that what would be the average duration of an assignment, and can we also share an example of the project RFP or project that DMEO has in mind with them that we would be giving to the empaneled agency in the short
Sure,
run.
sure. Thanks, Divya, ma'am, for that query. Talking about the kind of studies we have undertaken in the past, we have very recently getting 9 evaluation studies done through limited tender. In that During that point in time, we did not have a monitoring evaluation specific empanelment list, so we went ahead with our Samavesh empanelment list of Niti Aayog. So we have already commenced all those 9 studies, and they are on the verge of completion. Now, coming back to the duration of assignment, so the duration of assignment will definitely depend upon the kind of project that we are going to do. It can vary from few weeks to few months as well, and probably a year as could be year two. But then yes, the cap here is 50 lakh rupees. So if it is below 50 lakh rupees, we can award it through a limited tender route. If it is above 50 lakh rupees, we will have to go through a open tender inquiry process. The way our studies work, typically, let's say, if, just to give you an example, let's say if you were to do evaluation of coffee board, we engage with the ministry, we engage with Niti verticals, we get the terms of reference finalized for that particular evaluation. We list down what kind of sampling is recommended. We list down what kind of states will have to be covered as part of the particular evaluation. What kind of KIIs, key informant interviews, will have to be done. So those kind of details are provided in terms of reference as part of, as an indicative list. And then we conduct a limited tender inquiry process, which might go, as Himanshu pointed out, it can be just a financial evaluation. So the lowest cost bidder gets the project. We could also go for a techno-financial evaluation where we might want to evaluate the key personnel requirements as well. So based on this project, we come up with so it could be a LCS or a QCPS selection, and then we award it to the qualified L1 company or organization or institution to take up the respective study. The limited tender studies are expected to close in 3 to 4 months. Something like an umbrella CSS evaluation that we undertook a year back, where we evaluated 123 schemes. It could also take a year. So yeah, the duration can vary from project to project. I hope that answers your query, Divya ma'am. Back to Himanshu.
Thanks, Parish. So we will be taking the last 2 questions. So I see one hand still raised. Dr. Ramesh Babu, you may unmute yourself and ask your question, and then we will take a question from the chat. Dr. Ramesh? Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Sir. Sir, in fact, we were empaneled with DMEO for this survey works purpose. Now, can we submit proposals for this M&A?
Thanks, Rameshji, for that query. Yes, you can submit your application as M&A institution as well. So those are 2 different exercises, and yeah, you are free to apply again for M&A institution empanelment as well. I hope that answers your query.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Parish. So this is the last question for this session. So what from chat, Ritish Rautela is asking, what if an institution has multiple entities under its umbrella, including a non-profit entity? So how in this case it would be evaluated?
Okay, again, the answer lies in the definition applicant. If the application is in the name of that not-for-profit entity, the application will be considered eligible. But please note, the experience only of that not-profit entity will be taken into consideration. The rest of the sister companies or subsidiaries or other organizations in the same umbrella, their experience will not be taken into consideration when we do this evaluation. The evaluation will be only for the experience of the not-for-profit entity that we are talking about here.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, so Himanshu, if that's the last question, then probably I'll take the mic from there to just quickly introduce Dr. Shekhar Bonu, and if you could hear from him some brief remarks. So Dr. Shekhar Bonu is the Director General of Development Monitoring and Evaluation Office, Niti Aayog. He has worked with us. He has been part of DMEO for the last 3 years. He recently completed 3 years, and under his able guidance and support, we have been able to complete the evaluations of 123 umbrella centrally sponsored schemes worth close to 4 lakh crores. We have initiated evaluations of a lot of central sector schemes. The idea is over the next 3-year plan or next 3 to 4 year span, we are able to finish evaluations of as much central sector schemes possible, so that by the time we reach the next finance commission cycle and their commission report, we have at least one tangible evaluation report for them to take an informed decision. So yeah, that's the vision that we have set up for ourselves, and DG sir, as we call him, is leading that particular vision for us. So with that, Dr. Shekhar Bonu, over to you for your brief remarks on this exercise and vision that we have for ourselves. So back to you. So if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
So in the meanwhile, Paresh, there is a raised hand. Dr. S.K. Trivedi, if you can hear what he wants to say, can we unmute? Looks like there is some technical issue at DG sir's end.
Dr. Trivedi, if you would like to unmute and raise your query, please.
Okay.
Dr. S.K. Trivedi, can you unmute yourself?
Okay.
Or perhaps there's an issue there as well. So he's unable to unmute. He's trying to. So
we also have a raised hand from a couple of other folks. I don't know if you've already taken their queries. So AFC India Limited, I think we have already taken query from Ms. Anjali. Dr. Amish Babu has spoken. Yeah, Dr. Trivedi. And there are a couple of questions in the chat. This question is from Neeraj Yadav ji. His query is.
Yeah, in the meanwhile,
Dr. Trivedi, we can.
Dr. Trivedi.
Yeah. Sir,
Yes.
my query is there because I was seeing your RFP, the limit is for eligible assignment is 15 lakhs. This is good limit for infrastructure assignment, but number of projects which we are doing evaluation studies, they range up to say $10,000 or somewhere 7 lakh to 10 lakh range. This will be difficult because we would have done almost 150 studies in this sector evaluation, but only 10 or 12 in these 6 years are coming in this range. So that way, if the limit should be reduced to 7.5 lakhs or so, that will be better. You will be able to get better inputs, competitors for this. This is my request to you. Secondly, you have asked for the mass communication. You have used the word mass communication. In development sector, we use development communication. Otherwise, you will be, number of these journalists will come up in this and they will also compete for this. And in development communication and journalism, both are different. So there are two queries which are to be responded to from you. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Trivedi. So your suggestion is taken. We will evaluate whether we can bring down the limit of eligible assignments. At this point in time, the limit stands at, as you pointed out, as 15 lakhs. But yes, we will relook at your suggestion and see if we can bring that down. If at all that changes, you will see it in the corrigendum. The second part of the question around mass communication, I think it's important to understand the definition of mass communication in the context of this particular RFP. So we are talking about mass communication more as an IEC or a, information campaigning, creating awareness of our scheme. So as far as it's limited to that part, that will be considered. So again, that mass communication is not making any journalist agency eligible unless they have pure monitoring and evaluation experience as well. So yeah. So the conditions in the RFP will take care of that, Dr. Trivedi.
So
Yeah,
second
I see.
question, if you allow me,
Yeah.
we have
Yeah,
done
please.
we have done a study of evaluating Prime Minister's award, and sector-wise, if you see, for 10 or 11 states, we would have gone through that, these bureaucrats who are getting this award. And their sectors, there might be in one project, total budget might be 20 lakh, but then there are 10 sectors in this. Will it be considered in all 10 sectors or one or two? That's another corollary.
Okay. Okay. From the larger principle of this particular RFP, let me answer this query. So when I say empanelment under sector, we expect that particular entity to have really, you know, provided their expertise in that particular sector, have gone on ground, have evaluated, have done literature survey in that particular sector. So that's the broad idea behind the sector empanelment. Coming back to the PM awards exercise, I am not sure about the details of that exercise, but if that talks about detailed sector level evaluation, detailed evaluation of schemes, probably then that qualifies as an eligible assignment. At this point in time, we want to consider one eligible assignment only against one sector. Otherwise, we will run the issue of, you know, just one assignment being done across 21 sectors. That is something that we do not want to, because then that you bring in the width but not the depth. So we want to consider one assignment only against one sector. So you may choose which sector you want to apply that against. And as far as you have shown that depth, probably we should consider that as an eligible assignment.
Thank you.
So thanks, Dr. Trivedi. I see Dr. Bonu on the call. Sir, welcome for joining this particular event. Sir, I hand it over to you for quick remarks from you. And I know empanelment is something that you have been eagerly, you know, chasing for the last 2 years. Yeah, back to you, sir.
Thanks, Paresh. Thanks, Shailendra, for organizing and also chairing this meeting. I saw. First of all, I would like to welcome all the esteemed colleagues who have joined this call from across the country. I'm sure my colleagues must have explained, and you must have also understood it from the RFP. The whole intent of this empanelment of knowledge institutions for monitoring and evaluation is to build a network of non-profit institutions across the country to strengthen monitoring and evaluation ecosystem. So the way we see this happening is that at the states, we have state planning department, which normally all the states have an evaluation entity, and they also do monitoring through their state evaluation and state statistics and economics division. Those state departments really need a lot of support, and we are hoping to also work with the state training institutions. But the state training institutions and state planning departments alone are not enough. So we need local support systems. And in some states, they have already worked it out. In case of Madhya Pradesh, they have done hub and spoke model of various institutions supporting. So we are looking for this whole network, build a whole network of institutions that are spread across the country, who will support the various state governments as well as union territories, and also work with at the center. Some of them would work with center at the Government of India level. So in short term, yes, this RFP is meant for taking care of limited tender wherever it's required. And once we empanel it, the same empanel institutions can also be used by various ministries of Government of India, and also maybe some of the state governments. So in a way, we are trying to reduce the headwinds which stop various government entities from seeking support of various knowledge institutions for monitoring and evaluation and other analytical work. So that's one part of the whole aspect. But I think this whole engagement is also on a medium term to build a network of knowledge institutions that can support the various state governments in a sort of a decentralized, distributed manner, and also at the central level too. And through various interventions like capacity building commissions and so forth, we build a very strong network, ecosystem of government training institutions and knowledge institutions all coming together to provide the cutting edge knowledge that's required to improve our public expenditure. So that's it from my side. So it's a deep effort to build very strong monitoring and evaluation ecosystem in this country, and we have been working in many directions. But this is a very important initiative, and I thank my colleagues for taking this whole effort so far. And I really look forward to many of our esteemed colleagues who have joined from various knowledge institutions joining this process and in the looking forward to the empanelment process. Back to you, Paresh, and also if there are any specific questions, please do let me know. I can respond.
So there's one query, if you could probably throw some light on. This query is from Jignesh Thakkarji. He would like to know what is an indicative outgoing fees that DMEO is looking for this exercise over the next 3 years.
Yeah, it's very challenging to predict how it is, but I just want to let you know that in terms of scale, we are increasing the scale of our own work, from DMEO, from let's say 1x to 10x. So over next 5-year period, we are going to evaluate all the central sector schemes. And just 1 or 2 years before, the 16th Finance Commission will be evaluating all the centrally sponsored schemes. Already we have ongoing around 10 studies which we have done through limited tender, but many of these studies will also go through open tender. Any study which is beyond 50 lakh will go through open tender. This year we are doing food subsidy and fertilizer subsidy, which will entail surveys of as many as 1,60,000. So all put together, we are looking at close to 30 crore business just this year for 2022-23. But my sense is that there is also growing awareness that we should do this work more in case of evaluation, and also strengthen monitoring by leveraging IT. I think there is a lot of demand, but it's the procurement which holds back. So if everyone, lot of ministries, departments and states, they don't have the procurement capacity. So even though there is a demand, they have resources, they just don't go ahead. So procurement becomes a headwind. So what we are trying to address here is to reduce the headwinds. So we have put an empanelment of survey firms. So if anyone wants to go ahead, they can use our empanel list and do a limited tender and go ahead for up to 25 lakh or 50 lakh. So likewise, we have put standardized RFP documents on our website. There's a procurement page on our website. And we have been holding training programs across the states, across the ministries, departments, to build these capabilities of procurement across, so that whenever there is a demand, they can easily open up and onboard. So to answer the question, there might be clarity on the type of business that DMEO will generate. But I think that is not what we are looking at. what we are looking at is to reduce these headwinds which are stopping various ministries, departments, and states from going ahead and outsourcing their work to high quality institutions. But yes, we also know that many of these institutions have never done high quality evaluations in the past and will need some support to build those capabilities. So right now we are working with around 5 or 6 institutions on 9 studies. And we also realize that initial phases of work will also involve uh, mutual building of capacities by sharing best practices and also going through peer review process. So in doing so, we are slowly trying to build overall capabilities within the larger ecosystem to do better monitoring and also better evaluations. And in doing so, provide high quality evidence based support for policy making and program management. So coming back to this question, yes, we are going to see maybe around 60 crore from DMEO or even on a conservative basis. But we hope, because every ministry and department is supposed to do their own evaluation. Around 2% of the budget is set aside for doing this type of concurrent evaluations. Likewise, state governments also have large number of training programs. So we need to, as a nation, we need to build strong culture of concurrent evaluation and end-time evaluation, and use the findings of these evaluations to improve the quality of our programs, midterm corrections, end-term corrections, learning from these lessons and improving on our program designs. So that is, I think, the bigger goal that we are aiming to achieve. And we want to enable this process by making procurement process as simple as possible and as easy as possible, so that more and more ministries and government of India and the state governments would outsource and make full use of the amazing capabilities that various knowledge institutions have. I hope I have answered to some extent. Paresh, back to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for throwing that light and also giving an idea about the vision for the next years to come, not just for DMEO, but also talking about the states and central ministry department. Thank you so much, sir. So with that, probably we'll come to the end of our session. Just a couple of points I wanted to highlight reading through the chat. Number one, people have been requesting us for presentation copy. So we are going to share a copy of the presentation along with the corrigendum and response to written response to the queries, which we are going to publish in a few days from now. The second part, this is an earnest request from the organizers and the procurement team at DMEO. We request the applicants to not play with the format of Excel. We have had cases in the past where people have recreated the Excel, and we have still not taken any penal action against those organizations. But going forward, if any information is not given in the format that we have requested for, or if somebody has tried to play with the format, then probably we will not be in a position to consider consider that particular application as responsive. And this is in line with the clause 2.2.1 of bit responsiveness of the RFP. So yeah, please make sure that you adhere to the formats that have been given and do not play with that. So that should be all from my end as well. Back to you, Himanshu sir and Shalinder sir, for your closing remarks. Yeah, back to you, Himanshu.
Yes, thanks, Paresh. Thanks, DG sir. Now I would request Shailendra sir for his closing remarks.
Thank you, Himanshu. Thank you, DG
sir, for setting the overall larger context in which this exercise is being undertaken. And hopefully all our potential partners, partner institutions who have joined today are going to find it easy after today's elaborate discussion, the answers given by Paresh and the team to the questions that were raised here, to come up with responses in the timelines that are very important, given that there is a lot of work that lies ahead of us, and therefore we are really looking forward to responses, good responses in the timeline that we have shared as part of the schedule. We will, of course, be providing a response to the queries as per the schedule from our side as well. That is the first step from this point on. So thank you very much for joining in today, and thank you for everybody's time. Thank you from us.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
मिलेंगे response वगैरह